Excellent. So, Doug, just introduce, is it Cynthia again?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Barry, will you check the cloud to see that it did record?
It'll send me an email, yes.
When?
Go ahead, you're being recorded, Doug.
All right. Let me introduce Cynthia Panucci, who's the founder and director of Art and Science Collaborations, Inc., also known as ASCII. Cynthia.
Hi, I'm happy and sad to be here because of the occasion. So I think I probably know Flash 30 years as well. I founded ASCII in 1988, and by probably 1990, we were already starting to have an exhibition committee, and Flash and Elena Ort were the co-chairs of our exhibition committee. Flash was always very, very involved, and as you said, Doug, volunteering his time. If he was interested in something, he certainly did not hold back from giving. And by 1992, I curated our first exhibition was at the Snug Harbor Cultural Center on Staten Island, and Flash was had one of his LED Egyptian LED lights embedded in a canvas, so it was flat, and it was an Egyptian symbol of like a big bird. Unfortunately, I couldn't find an image of that. But so of course you're looking at this canvas and the lights are blinking off and on. And I think there were so many pieces in that exhibition that were either video or LED oriented that we did keep the light level very low. You know, when I started ASCII in '88, about 20 artists came to the Staten Island Ferry Terminal building. I lived on Staten Island at that time. And, you know, I had put a little blurb in the NYFA, New York Foundation on the Arts newsletter. And so it was a wintry, blustery night on the ferry boat, and we met in the terminal. And I asked everybody, you know, I presented actually this project that I was going to do with piping light into the middle of some columns in the middle of this building. But then I asked everybody, so why are you here? Are you here because you would like to do exhibitions, you know, and collaborate with engineers on public art, which was what my interest was? And they all said no. You know, we make video sculpture, or we make, you know, LED this. It was all hybrid types of work that had a moving element. But back then, most galleries wouldn't even look at that work in New York, mainly because they didn't have enough plug-in outlets in the wall to plug it in. So these artists, not only did they not know that there were that many other artists in New York that did that were very interested in kinetic work. You know, they had such unusual. They brought their slides, and I was so impressed with their work. I had seen the work of George Rhodes. His, you know, he was an artist that did these plexiglass encased sculptures where the balls start at the top and they move down and they make a noise, and kind of like a Rube Goldberg type kinetic sculpture. And 42nd Street Ballroom was one of my favorites of his. And so anyway, I gave up my idea of what I thought ASCII would be, and I wanted to support the work of these artists. And so Flash was integral to putting together our first exhibitions. And then 1992, Marcia Rudy, who was the public programs director at the Hall of Science, came and she saw that exhibition, and she invited ASCII to put on, you know, a major exhibition in their great hall, and Flash was part of that as well. So Flash was also on my board of directors, and for unlike most nonprofits where you're supposed to change your board every 2 or 3 years, we didn't do that. We kept our board for most of the years unless they dropped off and new people came on. But Flash was always
Emeritus,
there.
right?
What?
We're emeritus.
Who is emeritus?
I think.
Flash is? Yeah. So anyway, I knew Flash from a bit his help and support of ASCII and our board. Although on our board, he and I did not see eye to eye very often. I have a more of a kind of eclectic, big picture image of what I wanted ASCII to be, and I started opening up. It was no longer to be just art and technology, but art and science. So we did exhibitions, you know, on the brain, on biodiversity, all kinds of things. But Flash hung in there. He was always there to, if I needed a quorum, he made sure, even though he said it was a busy time for him to be at a meeting, he was there. I later, well, just recently, 4 years ago, I came back to New York for like the 4th time in my
Wow.
life. And
Yeah.
I ended up living at Flash's family home that his grandparents had way, way, way back. And you could not ask for a better landlord. And I think maybe that's because his home / studio loft on 30th Street off of Broadway, he had to fight the landlord like most Manhattan artists every year and go to Albany to keep the rent down because they were always trying to raise the rent. But Flash, no, he was so concerned that we all got along, the housemates here, that he even bought paper towels for the kitchen and toilet paper because he didn't want anybody arguing over who used it more. So he was very much concerned with fairness, and he would not shrug from fixing anything. I mean, even things that he didn't have an expertise in. But I do love and appreciate his light expertise because here in the brownstone, he put in under the shelving in the kitchen, there's you tap your hand underneath, and it's an LED light strip that puts this beautiful light on the countertops. And then if you enter any of the hallways, automatically a motion sensor picks up your motion and a light goes on. So Flash was, I agree with Doug, he was an enigma. I didn't find that he had much of a sense of humor, but I know he must have. It's just that he was so focused on his own interests, which were mostly about things from outer space and the Nubians and the you know, the Egyptian culture, and if you know, if you weren't talking about that, he didn't really have much of an interest. So he was hard to converse with. He was a very quiet man, but I did respect him and was very grateful to him. And he, I think, knew that about ASCII. What else? Oh, the announcement that I sent out about the memorial, it had a picture of flashing Merlin, and that was the avatar that he had created for the monthly ASCII meeting in Metaverse meeting in Second Life. I don't even know what Second Life is, but Flash was very into it. He and Jerry would hang out there, and other people weren't even ASCII members. And I wished I had had a way to connect to them about Flash's passing, but I didn't. But I know that Flash really, really enjoyed that. So that was something he was in charge of for the last 10 years. I think that's pretty much it. Unless, are there some people here at the meeting that, well, maybe Steve, maybe Steve, you didn't. Is there anybody here that didn't see the images that I shared of Flash with the announcement?
I didn't see them. Jan.
Silvio sent me a copy of the flashing Merlin
Yeah, yeah.
image.
Probably good to
Portrait.
probably good to share them because some
Okay,
people will watch.
Barry, they're on my desktop right now. So what do I do? Do I click on them each, or what? How do you share?
So go to share screen, the green arrow at the bottom of your
Okay.
screen, and then choose desktop, and then whatever on your desktop will show. So then just open the images that you want.
Okay. Share computer sound, no share screen sharing for video clip, no. No, whiteboard, iPhone. I don't have something that says share desktop.
It's share screen.
I did that part.
And then what's the next one? Share computer. What are your choices?
At the top, it says basic, advanced. No way. Oh,
All right, we're on your desktop.
now I don't know what happened. Oh gosh. Yeah. Oh dear. That's not my desktop. I have no idea whose desktop that is. But is it, who took this picture? Is that you, Steve?
We can't see. You haven't started screen sharing yet.
Oh, that's
Oh,
Oh, that's Bob Dannenmann at NYU in
1965.
1965.
wow.
I took that picture of him.
This one right here, Susan.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's looking at you.
He had a lot more hair then,
That was
didn't he?
when he was still Bob Dannenmann.
Right. Right.
Well, on top of his head instead of behind it.
Right.
Everybody seeing the images she's talking about?
Yeah,
Oh.
I thought she was Woody Allen back then from this picture.
I know. It does look like Woody Allen.
Great picture, Susan. Thank you.
I'll take
So
it.
yeah, that's just how I remembered him. I saw him in, well, last saw him in 1970.
That's Jimmy Preston.
Wow. Well, I'm going to open a picture on my desktop. Can you guys see it now? No. No. I see Susan. I'm sorry, but I'm a Luddite in this area.
Just go share, and then it says desktop 1. It has a little window of the, if you see that. You see it? Cynthia.
No, I've lost my whole,
Press on Zoom again then. Press on Zoom.
where are we?
You got it on your.
There we go. There's Zoom. I'm going to have to come back in, right?
Can you hear us?
Yep, but that doesn't make any sense.
Well, then just press on the icon. It should be on that strip of icons that you have. Just press on the icon again. You'll get Zoom.
Why don't we do this? Let's move to someone else.
Okay.
And then I will work on,
There's
because
Oh,
Jimmy Preston. There's Robert Dannenmann.
Well, that's
At-
great.
Brooklyn Tech.
1964,
That's Brooklyn Tech.
Brooklyn Tech.
Wow.
That's great.
Doug, who's the next speaker?
Right, so let me just say that several people are waiting to get in. Hopefully Barry can help with that, including Lawrence Wheatman, who is supposed to be the next speaker, and also Bill Rabinovich, who has a 5 or 6 minute video interview queued up to play.
Yeah.
Once they're able to get in, which hopefully will be soon, there may also be additional people waiting for admission. We'll see.
Right.
In the meantime, though, let's just go to people who are here in whatever order. Anybody that's prepared. How about Eric? Do you want to speak, Eric?
Sure.
And
Uh,
Doug, one sec, Doug, if you would go ahead and send emails to them to get off of Zoom and on Zoom again, those people who say they're waiting, because I don't see anybody waiting here in the wait room, and let them go to our ATOA NYC site.
All right. Well, first of all, that's where Bill is. He went to the site.
Just let them do it again.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Eric.
So Eric, go ahead.
I think I met Bob, must have been around 1982. As I mentioned before, it was at a gathering at David Bermant's house in Westchester. And he had a huge collection of kinetic art going way back to Man Ray. And I had done Duchamp. And I had done some light sculptures. I call them computerized, but this was pre-computer. And I programmed the lights or animated the lights with disco lighting chasers. And at the time, at this party was the guy who Saul Winograd from the Port Authority, who invited me upon seeing my sculptures to do a couple of sculptures for the Port Authority bus terminal, light sculptures. And I'm thinking, my life was flashing before my eyes, because I really only know enough about various technologies to get me into trouble. And Flash got me out of trouble on numerous occasions. I think between my 1 and 2 hands, there were tech problems that I invented that he solved. And the first of those was at the bus terminal, where I was in the middle of an install, and Bob came and Flash came, and I think he was Bob at the time. He came and bailed me out. I remember visiting his studio / home. I think he lived there, although I never saw his living quarters. It was a very small studio space, and I guess that was his last home.
Yes.
And he was the first vegan that I ever met. And I thought to myself, well, this isn't the greatest testimony to veganism, because Bob looked, he didn't look like the most robust character. He's very thin and very pale, and I guess you could call him a savant, right? It was very difficult to get a rise out of him. He would sort of chuckle at things that I thought were very funny. I didn't learn much about him personally. I don't know to this day how much there was to learn about him. I don't recall him having a family. Somebody help me out if he did.
No.
So from the Port Authority, I did this light mobile, the Volkswagen, covered with computerized light bulbs. And again, I was out of my depth, and Bob came to my rescue, and that happened again on this bubble boat that I did in the harbor. And to be honest, I recontacted him after many years. He repaired a light sculpture of mine, an early sculpture at the Stony Brook University, a piece that I never thought was going to last as long as it did. And Bob went out to Stony Brook and repaired sculpture. Some circuit had gone out, and I don't even think we spoke. I think our communication was by modern means, i.e. email. I don't know if he was in good or bad health at the time. He didn't say anything personal, which was, I thought, typical of him. But he was a very gentle man,
Yes.
a very sweet man.
Yep.
And that's how I remember him.
Yep.
Didn't Flash have a long-term partner, romantic partner, a girlfriend or something for decades?
Yes. Yes. And unfortunately, she died 2 years ago.
That was Paul.
And it was first his 95-year-old mother died here, and then his brother died here in the
very next month.
what?
Within a month.
Within months. And then his girlfriend of 30 years died, and he found all three of those people.
40 years. The girlfriend was 40 years.
Okay. So
and the mother died
unfortunately, Flash found them dead in their apartments or in their homes. So he had quite a blow. And he also had lung cancer that was found thanks to his friend Silvio, who took him and dragged him to the hospital a year ago. But anyway, up until then, although he looked frail, he was strong-willed, and I think knowing his mother, who was 95, I can say Flash would have lasted a long, mind over body. He would have lasted a long time. But I really do think that this was right at the beginning of COVID, and I think he might have caught something there. Anyway,
Yes.
that's all.
We're trying to link again. I don't know why you're not showing up on the waiting
Okay, I'd like to go if I could now.
Please go right ahead.
Okay, I'm Jerry Spivak. My involvement with the arts was simply being involved with Billy Kluver and Rauschenberg, putting together the 9 Evenings of Art in the Armory. And then I put together an interactive artwork, which was selected by MoMA and was put up in the Brooklyn Museum, called Computer Descending a Staircase. But as a result, I got involved with ASCII. And I would say that Flash had many families. The people who got involved in Second Life, they all felt that he was very concerned with them. He made sure that they all felt comfortable continuously. And he really was, as you know, a caring person. And I just put together a poem, since it was mentioned that we could write a poem if we wanted. So here it is. Flash. Flash shone a light upon the center of art. He touched our mind. He touched our heart. He was a rare find, a person incredibly kind. And though he could manipulate and transform any strange utensil, when it came to people, he always remained the same, extraordinarily gentle. Flashlight shone his light upon everyone he knew, embellishing their being, adding to the richness of their youth.
Amen.
There's time and space and time. Flash could play with both. Faster than 2 nickels make a dime. Flash found new arenas where art and imagination were rife. In particular, he brought many artists into Second Life. But now he is enriching a new domain where we will someday meet him again. It's called Third Life, where with neither limit nor tether, we will create without hindrance new art together.
Oh,
Very good.
wonderful, Jerry.
Jerry,
Thank
you know,
you.
that's very, very nice. And I wanted to say, it reminds me of something I'll insert here, which is that unbeknownst to many people, Flash was very helpful to a lot of artists, for which he never got any credit, but he just was there for people who were struggling for whatever reason, either illness or projects that were overwhelming. And, you know, maybe I had an open to see that where many people didn't. And that's something I would share. Who would like to go next?
Doug, if it's okay, I'd like to say something about Bob Dannenmann, the young man. We met in the 7th grade at PS 140 in Brooklyn, New York, which goes back a couple of years. Neither of us was very athletic. We were both kind of nerds before the term was invented, more interested in science than girls. He was a very good checker player. I think he had memorized all the openings to checkers, and he was really hard to beat at checkers. And he was an excellent pool player. One reason was that there was a pool table on the 2nd floor of his house, and he got a lot of practice in. I could beat him at chess on occasion. He was someone I could relate to, really was my first best friend. Although we went to different high schools and colleges, now and then we got together for games of pool, experiments with electricity. We walked a lot. But he did go out of his way to be different. He had a 6-foot-tall ladder in his room on the 2nd floor. After they moved out the pool table, he took over that room. And he would sit on the top of the 6-foot ladder every once in a while when we had conversations about life and what the future held. He did go to NYU, has been commented by others. And after a while, he told me he was into the television, motion pictures, and radio department, TMR. And he'd call me every once in a while when he would need someone for a photography assignment or an extra for a student film. In our junior and senior years, we began getting together on Friday and Saturday nights with my friend Silvio to listen to rock and roll and learn to smoke the evil weed and talk about girls. We did a lot of talking about girls in those days. We were all kind of blown away by Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the album, and particularly the cut A Day in the Life. He made a short film that he spliced together, a montage, and gradually his room turned into a lot of developing and hidden lights all over the room. He moved into a cold water loft, a man dedicated to his art. On 26, our girlfriends at that time played to stay as soon as it opened. We were in the Village in the late 60s or early 70s. You probably got one of these cards from us advertising.
On Bedford Street. The Photon Factory was on Bedford Street.
Yes, the factory was on Bedford and Downing, the corner of Bedford Downing in the Italian section of the Village down there. But we, our Electric Sandwich Man, in order to maximize our advertising potential, was on the corner of McDougal and Bleecker. And so we would kind of shoo people down the street to get, okay, go down that way a block, make a slight left turn and walk another block. That's where we are. So then we gave him a pitch on the light show. You'll have a great time. This image that I've got on the screen, we were lucky enough to get a little write-up from Ernest Leogrande, who did the Night Owl Reporter in the Daily News, and he gave us a little plug. So we're very happy about that at the time. And Bob and I were pretty close. He was with me when I married my wife later on in that year, a long time ago. But I did leave the Photon Factory in '72 after I realized that I was not going to achieve fame and fortune in the light show. We were a corporation that year, actually, stock certificates and all. And in the report to the stockholders, he commented that the prototype of totally electronic visual music system, our project for the last 4 years, is nearing completion, though still a little behind schedule. He was behind schedule for a long time, but he was in it for the long run. And now, if things work out, I am going to bring up a different image. No, I didn't want to do that. Now I want to close this. I can delete this. Do I want to delete this file? Yeah, yes. Oh, okay, I need a little electronic help there. I want to close this image. So, resize. No. Anybody know how I can get rid of this image?
Get out of share screen for one thing. Get out of share screen for a minute. Just leave share screen.
So if I knew how to get out of share screen, I would. Okay. So,
Click the green thing again.
oh, here. Okay, here's what I wanted to do. This photo of Bob is cropped from an image of Photon and the Snark. I have no idea what the Snark is, but it's a good blow up of the electric sandwich board. And that image of Bob is pretty much the Bob Dannenmann or Photon. I called him Photon. That I know because he was the Photon Factory. He had that wide-brimmed brown pork pie hat, wire glasses, kind of a wispy beard, wore suede vest a lot, old jeans, and if you knew him pretty well, you could spot the fact that he liked the Tom McCann's Hush Puppies. He was my best friend, and he was really an ascetic. Frugal, hardworking, driven, serious about most things. A big night out for us in the early days was dinner at Tad's Steaks. He wore a wry smile when he was amused, but he did have a belly laugh on those rare occasions when he found something really funny. It was hard to get him to change his mind when he had made it up. I mean, once he was on to something, man, that was what he was going to do. The slogan of his electronic repair business was, "We fix it till it works." And I think that pretty much sums him up. And that's my memory of Bob. So I'm going to try once again. There's a Photon and the Smart. Oh, that's PS140.
Is Sylvia in the middle? Who's in the middle? Who's in that picture?
I have no idea. Silvio gave me that picture, and I have no idea who the other people are. Now, I am trying to, oh, what was that? Something just happened. Share screen. Let's see. Slideshow, save as, resize, and save as, view actual size. I'm trying to close this out. If I do that, it don't. No contacts, see what photos. Okay, need your help to close this out. Anyone have suggestions?
Barry, are you there?
What do you mean by close it out? You mean
I want to close the pictures out. I have an icon.
Click the green share screen icon again. Just click it again.
Here. Okay. And now
pop out of it.
Toggle out.
Oh, tell us who's in the picture. Is that Silvio in the middle?
No, that is not Silvio. Bob
Oh.
is obviously
I-
Bob. I do not know who the other three people are. I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
sure exactly when the photo was taken. The other person in the picture is Thomas Alva Edison. He's peeking out in the upper corner there on the right. I think he took that one with him from his bedroom in Brooklyn to every studio he had. Oh, damn.
Okay, so Steve, I think if you don't mind,
Yes,
we have Lawrence Wheatman on the phone.
okay.
It's a little bit old tech, but it works. So if you'll let me, I'm going to put Lawrence
Yes.
Wheatman on. And let me just mention that he is a longtime friend of Flash, as you are. And he's an NYU professor, part of the School of Professional Studies. So I'm going to put him on speaker.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
Kind of.
Not well. Not well.
Kind of.
Okay.
All right.
I will speak more closely. First of all, Steve, who are you?
I'm Steve Shapiro, a lifelong friend of Bob's from the 7th grade.
There we go. Okay. I don't know him that long. I think I've heard your name. We probably have met, but I've got old timers, so just it's not so easy to
Yeah,
remember.
I've got
everybody.
old timers too. Yeah, that goes for most of us, I think.
Okay, so Steve, let Lawrence speak.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I don't know who's here. I don't know how many are here. I thought I was the Zoom master, but lo and behold, I could not get on today, no matter what I tried. In any case, I am happy to be here. I'm not happy to be here. And Flash was, we were very close. I first met him, I think, in '72. We went into business together in early '75. We lived together from about '76 to until July 1st of 1980, and we've lived down the block from each other since 1980. As everybody already knows, if you know him, a brain upon a brain upon a brain, patience upon patience upon patience, generosity, a deep thinker, somebody who you could ask the simplest question of or the most complex question of, and he would have an accurate answer after a long pause. And the accurate answer would be so well formed that it was like, what book did you get that out of? How much research did you do in the last 12 seconds while you were thinking about it? As an artist, he certainly was an artist. There's many things I didn't really connect with on his art, even as I was helping him build some of the more monumental items. One's 12 feet tall and $100,000 or more. And we'd build those things out of buckets of transistors, literally. analog computers is what we were making for his artwork much of the time. Although my favorite piece is a very, very simple piece that I am happy to have at home, which just has, I think it's 6 LEDs in it, and it teaches the difference between 3/4 time and 4/4 time. It's delightful. I don't know what to speak to about his death. As we think it was coronavirus related, if not directly, although he was ill for a week before he passed. If not directly, we won't be able to know that. Apparently, autopsies can't reveal that, or couldn't at the time, early March or mid-March, whenever it was. But we can be assured that it was coronavirus in the sense that it already was in the news that the hospitals were full at that point, and he was unlikely to go to a hospital at any point, as my knew about him. I don't know if you know the serious sadness he was in at the point of his death, because I believe it was just around Thanksgiving that his mother hadn't answered the phone for a few days. He went home and found her dead. She was in her 90s, upper 90s if I'm not mistaken, and then a couple of weeks later he was calling his brother, and he wasn't answering the phone. He went to the house and found him dead. And it was only like 3 or 4 weeks later that his girlfriend of 40 plus years, Paula, didn't answer the phone. He went there and found her dead. So I have to guess that he was in deep, it was a dark time for him in the first place, and then between, everything else. I miss the guy. I didn't see him anywhere near enough in these last few years, even when we were down the block from each other. We were working on a project together for a little bit in, I guess it was 2018, 2019, that we didn't get to finish. And I'll stop there, since I imagine that many of you have already had the same thoughts that I've had. I haven't met anybody who knew him who didn't think the world of him. And miss the guy.
Oh,
So Lawrence, I'm going to keep you on speaker so you can hear the other people speaking, if you don't mind. And yeah, who would like to go next?
I would. I'd like to go next. Susan Herrick.
Okay.
I have a letter that Flash wrote to me on Valentine's Day, 1994. I knew Flash when we were both in high school. I met him through Jimmy Preston, who's here tonight. Jimmy and I went to the same church, and Bob and his friend Marty Davis sent us 2 tickets to It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And it was a trick because Jimmy kept talking about me, so they wanted to meet me. So
You're stealing my thunder, Susan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll let you.
No, you go ahead.
You can add to it then.
Oh, well.
And that's how I met Bob. I said, "Well, who's that over there? Who's sitting there? Who's that?" And so Bob and I began a correspondence for probably over a year before I even went out with him. But through the years, we've kept contact, and he sent me piles and piles of cards, Valentine cards and Christmas cards and birthday cards. But this letter I found, Valentine's Day, 1994. Dear Susan, sorry I haven't written, but the whirl continues unabated. Kepera has been disinterred from luminescence and is sitting on my floor, waiting to see if he'll get into the Illumination Engineering Society exhibition. The curator is supposed to visit him, but she's been stopped by snow for the 2nd time this week. Meanwhile, I'm negotiating with Reading Rainbow, the PBS children's show. They visit artists as part of the show, and they're currently looking for a light artist. A staff member saw my work at Madeline Jordan Gallery and called. I sent a sample videotape. After several conversations, I submitted a sketch, several more conversations, and I built a maquette and sent them a video. Now they want to visit my studio. Several light artists I know have already had studio visits, only to be turned down. And all this just for the possibility of reaching an audience of 8-year-olds art collectors. Meanwhile, the deadline approaches for the spring show at the New York Hall of Science, and I haven't even begun wiring the piece I promised to deliver. Finally, the Museum of Modern Art just accepted a copy of, quote unquote, Modern Metaphysics, the art book video script I created in 1988, for their library. The gratification makes all the rest seem sensible. Love, Flash. And he makes this Flash sign. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, it disappears. I'm sorry. And then I have an art piece that I'd like to show you. I tried to send Doug a copy of it. I'm gonna share screen the still of it, and I'm gonna try to show you the actual art piece. This is the letter. And then, no, sorry, wait a second. I'll stop. Here it is. Now, let's see if we could do this. No, well, I don't want this one. Wait a minute, how do we do this? This is so frustrating. It's on the desktop, so let me see. Oh, I see, we'll get rid of that one. Okay. Now, here is the Memorandum of Agreement on Non-Destructive Abortion. This is a series of 9 panels of various forms of this agreement. And this is the one that he gave to me. I'm going to show it to you in real time in a moment. Did everybody see it? This is to certify that ex-guardian, hereafter referred to as guardian, agrees to remove an embryo from the womb of, hereafter referred to as mother, and freeze it until it is wanted, which is a very interesting approach to abortion. And then this is the wiring in the back. This is what it looks like. And you can see the light bulb behind the embryo. And I want to show you the actual art piece. I don't know if you can see this or not. Can you do this? Can I do this? How do I do this? I don't know how to do this. How do I do this?
Okay, so let me just say this.
Can
If
you
I may.
see? I'm trying to show it to you. I can't. I
Right.
guess I can't.
All right, now we see something.
Yeah. Good.
But let me just say this, there are still a number of people that would like to speak, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, a show of hands would be useful if you're waiting to speak, not just to watch or listen. Please hold your hand up. Okay, maybe there aren't any people waiting to speak.
I had a question.
Okay, that works.
What high school did Flash go to? What year did he graduate? And also, when did he take on the name Flash? And I didn't know he had a gallery. Would you tell us about those things?
Jimmy Preston can tell you about the high school. Go ahead, Jimmy.
We both graduated from Brooklyn Technical High School, 29 Fort Greene Place in Brooklyn, right by Fort Greene Park, which was the site of the Battle of New York in the Revolutionary War. And we graduated in 1964.
A very competitive school. So it says a lot.
Very competitive. There's a lot of, I guess you know, there's a lot of controversy about doing away with the merit-based admission to the special high schools, which until present, the admission is totally based on your entrance exam without considering any other factor, and they want to change that.
Uh-huh.
Is there
But
anyone?
Brooklyn Tech, it
Yeah.
was designed to graduate 1/3. It was a true thing that as a freshman, we sat there and they said, look at the guy to your left and to your right. When you graduate, only one of you will be here. which was true. It was one strike and you're out. You did one academic failure or one disciplinary breach, and they just sent you back to your local high school. So it was not easy to get through that school.
Oh, look, Susan, that's great. It's flashing beautifully. And when did he take on the name Flash?
All I know is he told me that, so he told me early on with ASCII, when I asked him that question, that he used to go to these gallery openings downtown in the early 80s. So through the 80s, through the 90s is probably when he did that. And he told me he changed his name legally. So I'm not sure of the
So
exact date.
I think Lawrence knows the answer. Lawrence?
Yes, I was there when he got the name Flash because I had a friend by the name of Eli Just, who I believe has passed in the last couple of years, who changed the name of everybody he met. And for example, he met me, the very first thing that he said to me was, "Do you mind if I call you Truckin'?" And I was trucking, I was trucking for many, many years. I took it on myself after 2 years. My mother answered to Mrs. Truckin', so I figured I was trucking, even though I didn't recognize that name to me at all before that. And when he met Flash with me in 73, think about that. Yeah, 73. He said, "Do you mind if I call you Flash?" This was at the Photon Factory, and I think you were speaking to the fact that he had a gallery, and that was the Photon Factory, where it was a gallery of his work. He built these boxes, some of which were, I guess as big as 6 or 8 feet wide, and maybe even almost that tall, up on poles. And each one of these screens, it was a big box that was a screen because it was an analog thing. It was an incandescent bulbs, of course. This is long before LEDs were invented. And where there were geometric shapes, and each box had at least one or two controllers. And people were invited to sit down on couches with a controller, essentially a remote control, but it was wired with very thick SCSI type cable with I think it was 50 pairs of leads coming out of it, and you would sit there and just play with this device while music was playing, and all of these things. There was like 12, 18 maybe of them, these boxes, which are in his basement, or his mom's basement now. Silvio has control over them if anybody's interested in resurrecting the Photon Light Show. And that the gallery, the Photon Factory, ended when the mafia said, "We need the space." And I can tell that whole story because it's very funny, but I won't unless somebody wants to ask.
Is there anyone else that is interested in speaking?
I just want to clarify some points. First of all, that Bob left a detailed biography, which can be found on the web, and it goes through all of his achievements point by point. And he says that in 1980, he accepted the name Flash. So I would take his words as definitive.
What is the
take anything that Bob said as definitive about many things, but particularly about that. And the cable was Belden cable. But yes, the light boxes were his major product of the work on 22nd Street. We took those to Bedford and Downing. And after learning that Bedford and Downing was in the heart and soul of the Italian community of the village, an alternate location in the heart of the village on 3rd Street was found next to the firehouse and above the gay bar downstairs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Understanding is that Bob was inspired by the Lumia suite, which was on permanent display at the MoMA, on the bottom
Right.
floor of the MoMA. I forget who the artist is of the Lumia suite.
It was Thomas Wilfred. He did the original Lumia series,
Yeah.
which appeared kind of like smoky patterns that appeared across the screen. It was on exhibit here in Washington, D.C. For a while. Thomas Wilfred.
So let me come in and say a couple of things, which is that I always consider Zoom to be kind of a Wild West ride. You know, it's like it's a question of what's going to work and what isn't going to work. Some things clearly did not work, nobody's particular fault, but among them were that there were a number of other people that I know were coming and were not able to get in for whatever reason, you know, technically. Also, there are some people that wanted to do presenting. One of them was Bill Rabinovich, who had what I think would be an interesting video interview of Flash. So what I am committing to here, with Barry's help after the fact, is we will get that media and we will append it, we will attach it, edit it in to this full event that we've just mostly finished. So that when this goes up on YouTube or the ATOA site or the ASCII site, as I hope it will in all those cases, people that have not been able to see it tonight or participate live will still have an opportunity to see it. I think it's worthwhile, and we'll promote it once it's possible. In addition to that,
Thank you.
Oh, okay, you're welcome. And so if Barry is Barry still there?
I am. Doug, will you go over the intro you did and now do it as a closing, so this way we don't need to splice that together?
All right.
Again, I would say it was my fault. I'm sorry. The waiting room locked out, so certainly Bill and Lawrence weren't able to get in. I did unlock it, but since the meeting was going on, the edit wouldn't take. So my apologies for that.
Right. Let me go right into, if you'll just bear with me, I'm going to pretty quickly read my original introduction and my personal eulogy again.
Before we go, could we meet all the other people that haven't spoken? There's Michelle and Nayera and Jacqueline Rada. They haven't said anything. And
well, I just asked if anyone else wants to speak, and I think they, by not speaking, they've or unmuting, they've indicated that, you know, they're listening.
Nice to know who they are.
Well, I'll tell you who some of them are. You know, some of them are ATOA board members. Some of them are perhaps ASCII folks. They're different things, and we can, if you're interested, I would suggest you contact me, which you can do at DougShear@gmail.com, and I'll see what I can do to find out for you.
Okay.
Okay?
And likewise, if anybody would like to speak, just raise your hand. Now we'll give a second chance, and you can jump in if you haven't spoken already.
Fine. Is there anyone else who would like? Okay. So Jim?
I could add just a couple of things about our high school days. Of course, he was a brilliant man. We all know that. He was very good in mathematics and electronics. I remember him showing me a diagram, an electronic diagram, and saying he had always thought that electronics had to have a circuit, have a wire going in one end of a device and another one coming out the other end. But it turned out that wasn't true, and you could stick things off on the side with just one wire, like a capacitor. He was intrigued with that. And possibly something you didn't know about, we were into guns, and his father had a Hopkins and Allen Underhammer buggy rifle, 45 caliber muzzle loader, that we would shoot in the basement of their house on East 59th Street. I'm sure that, well, might not have been exactly legal, but
That's a
Most of the
little
loading
surprising.
white powder guns aren't even considered firearms even today, so I guess we were okay.
I notice you have a rifle behind you as we speak, Jim.
Well, I'm a gunsmith. In addition to being a professional land surveyor, I'm a gunsmith, and I'm supposed to have a client coming by to pick that up tonight. So
Okay, so I'm
that's a
gonna,
model 94 Marlin 3840 that I
is
repaired
there
for a guy.
anyone else that would like a word before I reread?
One more note about Brooklyn Tech from a non-Brooklyn Tech attendee. Bob told me that the purpose of Brooklyn Tech was to prepare people for engineering schools. And what he told me was that the most important thing he learned at Brooklyn Tech was that he didn't want to be an engineer.
One more thing on that. I went on to Georgia Tech as a triple legacy there, but I didn't graduate. I ran out of money and dropped out of school and got drafted. And when I got out of the Army in 1970, I went and applied for a job at an engineering company in Atlanta on a Friday, and they showed me a stack of paper. They said they already had 50 applicants, and for me not to hold my breath. And so I came on down to Macon, and by the time I got to my brother's house, they said they called from Atlanta and wanted to know if you could be there on Monday. It turned out that having gone to Brooklyn Tech, the boss of the company, who would have been my boss, graduated from Brooklyn Polytech, the college to which many, many Brooklyn Tech graduates went on to. And he knew of the quality of that if you'd graduated from Georgia Tech, you had a lot on the ball. And that got me the job over about 50 other applicants, just simply having graduated from Brooklyn Tech.
Bravo to you. So if everyone will mute themselves, if you aren't currently muted, mute yourself. I'm going to reread this stuff. Won't take more than 10 minutes, perhaps, and then we will end. And if you need to leave, of course, you can leave if you wish to. I'm Doug Shear, Chairman Emeritus of Artist Talk on Art, and acting as Master of Ceremonies for this Flashlight Bob Dannenmann Memorial Zoom call. The artist Flashlight was born Robert Dannenmann and died in his 30th Street loft and studio on March 27th. We're gathered here virtually by Zoom to honor his memory and to talk about him as we each knew him. There are three primary speakers, myself, Cynthia Panucci, and Lawrence Wheatman. Will speak in that order. There will also be several other speakers as we go along. As co-founder of Artist Talk on Art in 1974, I ran the organization for 45 years, stepping down in 2019. On his passing, I realized that I'd known Flash for about 30 years. I never knew Flashlight had any other name until I learned that about 2 years ago when Lawrence Wheatman saw me giving a talk at the Roger Smith Hotel. And when I showed a picture of Flash, out of the audience, Lawrence said, "Oh, that's Bob Dannenmann." And so I learned for the first time what his birth name had been. I first encountered Flash on what I would call the fringes of ATOA. He was an occasional planner of panels on the programming committee. He also appeared in a number of them. He moderated some, but he certainly planned a number of them. But what was the most impact that I think Flash had on Artist Talk on Art and our legacy is that he helped me to really greatly improve the audio recording of the panels. And he's the one that really urged me. I mean, I was a video artist myself early on, but he really urged me to kind of bite the bullet and make the transition from audio recording to video recording. And to that end, he helped me to put together a double door storage cabinet on wheels and reinforce it with bars and padlocks. And we wired the thing on the inside with all the cable. It sort of had like a breakaway box in there so that we could very quickly set up to record in a gallery setting. We would leave this roll around cart at whatever gallery we were using. So we weren't moving it every week. We were moving it maybe once every year or so. And that catapulted us into video recording. Much of that equipment he provided. I mean, I did provide some, but he provided the cabling, he provided the microphones. We ultimately bought more equipment, but much of how we were able to set that up over a course of a few weeks and then use it for many, many years was his doing. Some of the other things that he did that were quite innovative and helpful to ATOA is from about the time in 1990 when we started recording in video, he, for a decade then, edited 29-minute versions so that we had our own, for about almost a decade, our own cable channel on Manhattan Cable. So people that couldn't be in the audience could tune in when they wanted to or when the program was on and see the programs that they might have missed. Additionally, when we were preparing to do the archive and to digitize all of the recordings, and it was in all, at that time, about 900 recordings. Today, it's about 1,000. And ultimately, we found the best location for us, the best place to take the archive in was Archives of American Art of the Smithsonian. Flash was absolutely helpful in dealing with Smithsonian, in dealing with the group that we had chosen, which was one that was mandated by Smithsonian to do the digitization. It was a huge project for us. It meant a lot. We had to raise a lot of money. It took me about 10 years to organize all the media. And it cost us close to $250,000 to achieve. So his role in that was all the technical stuff, helping to just smooth the way with Smithsonian, helping them to take elements from the legacy website, which is temporarily down right now, and to move all of that digitally, or to peel some of it off the website and provide it to them. He was just instrumental in helping us to safeguard and to be able to provide what has turned out to be, for Archives of American Art, their largest collection of audio and video recordings they've ever taken in. So bravo to Flash in his role in helping that to happen. The other thing that I would mention is he really saw himself as the director of the videos, in that, and he was certainly the cameraman for most of them, in that he framed people, the speakers, in a very specific, very tight close-up way. He also found ways, very innovative ways of integrating the media, whether it's slides or video media, integrating that into the recordings so that they were an integral part of what we put together for each session of those 900 that he was involved with. And so, of course, I'm going to be remembering him for the rest of my life, and the art world will remember him, his role in ATOA, through that legacy that now resides at Archives of American Art, of something of which I think he could be very, very proud. And I'm certainly proud of him for that. And thank you for listening to me. And thank you all, both those who spoke and those who simply attended. Thank you for being with us tonight. And to those of you who are seeing this later on YouTube or on one of the websites, thank you for looking. And good night.
Thank you, Doug.
Could someone tell us before you go what that website, that web page is, which has his biography and information on it?
I'll find out what that is and I'll distribute it. And so if someone will just send that to me as an email, I'll distribute it to everyone. Or we'll even mention it in the material that goes up on YouTube as a slide, let's say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
He was a show off kind of guy.
And good night, Lawrence.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you again.
Barry, you're all set?